Says I'm live. Enough light here. Light. Okay, I'm just now starting to use our YouTube again. We haven't really used it for a while, because we've been on Facebook and Facebook better. I don't know. We're well over maybe 250 of them that we've done. So we ran a swingers club, also known as a house party. Um, yeah, this was we ran it. We began running it. Whoops, just something popped up said it didn't like me. No, we began running it in our oh god, back in Santa Cruz back in the 70s. But back then they were more as pool parties, if you will. Because we had a big swimming pool, we had a big house, and we'd invite people over usually once or twice a month for a pool party. And that went on for probably 8 or 9 years. But we had a lot of people there and some uh, very high profile people. And from there, we sold that house. We moved out of that house because our neighbor was giving us a hard time, and we just didn't really want to be around him, so we left. And we bought a home in Scotts Valley. Mind you, we still own the house in Santa Cruz, but we bought our home in Scotts Valley. It was on top of a hill. It was in what we didn't know when we bought the house was on a hill called Bethany Acres. So it was very much associated with Bethany Bible College. Well, we did buy the house from the former president of Bethany Bible College. I won't mention his name, but we did buy it. But so maybe we possibly should have known. Anyway, we had our housewarming party where we had probably a couple hundred people show up at the house to see our new home. And during that party, the garage front header failed, and the house kind of dropped in. The beam over the garage dropped down about 6 inches, and the garage door wouldn't open or close anymore. So we had to jack it up and get it somewhat level, and then see what all happened. So that means probably wasn't designed for weight, if that. It says my connection is unstable. Oh, I'm sorry. Blame it on my internet service. Anyway, um, the glue lamp failed because there was a bunch of two by two by sixes nailed together. There were about maybe 8 or 10 by sixes nailed together. It wasn't a glue lamp beam at all. It was a bunch of two by sixes nailed together to make a beam, which is how it passed inspection. I have no idea. It did. Anyway, it failed, and the house fell down on the front of to hold it up, and then the fun began. And after about a year, we ended up going to court over the house. It says my connection is unstable. I don't know what it means by my connection is unstable. Life goes on, but it dropped down, and we ended up moving, and we got back in there. We lived there for about another year while we went through the court process of seeing what's going to happen with the house up on the hill. Well, we went to court and we won, but we didn't win. We got our down payment back, and um, you know, that's about all we got back. And then the sale was canceled. Um, and we moved back into the house in Santa Cruz, and we were there for maybe 2 or 3 months. And we just said, the reason why we moved out of here was because the neighbor was giving us so much problems. Well, guess what? He was doing them again. I had to fly in my hat. He was giving us the same problems, and he did. I don't know if he did it intentionally or what, but he would do things like he'd turn a sprinkler on so that it would go over the fence into our backyard, which doesn't seem all that bad, except into our backyard was our swimming pool, all our patio equipment, our barbecue, and all that. So they would get soaked in water. And so I asked him if he would kindly not turn the sprinkler towards our yard like that. And he said that he had no choice. That's how they were. And it wasn't something I was going to argue with because that's what he wanted to do. Dust. Anyway, so we put up with it for a few more months. And then finally, and he was stuck with a rental car that he couldn't afford. He parked it in front of our house. And I asked him a couple of times if he would like to move his house because it's in front of our house. It looks like it's an abandoned car. It was dirty. I mean, a lot of dirt had settled on it. And then it had a flat tire, and that sat in front of our house for a couple of months. Well, that didn't happen because apparently the rental company was getting ready to repossess the car, so he didn't care. Anyway, we opted to put the house up for sale and sell it. And we sold the house to some other nice people, and we bought another house in Scotts Valley. It was a nice home. It was built by a friend of ours, Bob Mandarino. And we just said we sold the house, the other house we had, and we bought another house in Scotts Valley. So here we go, and we moved. Actually, we moved on April 1st. All Fool's Day, but that's when we moved, and we moved up to the new house. It was a nice big house. I won't give you the address, or anything. And everything was fine until about 1989. I was working in my photography studio in Santa Cruz, and we had a little bit of an earthquake. Well, the building stayed erect. I mean, it was a cement tilt up, but the second floor and all that came down around me, and I was in the building. And, it destroyed our business. It destroyed, I was a photographer. It crushed a lot of the equipment that was in there. And, basically we were out of business. Whether we wanted to or not, we were out of business. And so over the next couple of months, I think the earthquake was in October, and we moved out in December completely. Only because our lease ended in December. That's when we moved. And so we moved out in December. I've been a photographer for 10 years. Had a good business going. We've made published, excuse me, we published our own calendars for years. We published our own postcards. We were cats. We were wedding photographers. We were doing a lot of weddings, an average of the two, sometimes three a weekend. And so we were quite busy as wedding photographers. We were calendar photographers. We published our own calendars. We did those for a couple of years, and then finally, like I said, it all ended when we had that earthquake. In part because all of our equipment, which was all Hasselblad, a lot of it was crushed when the second floor came down around us. And so here we are in December, got all moved out, and I got to figure out what the hell am I going to do now? I've been working all my life. I still had to go to work. I had house payments. So I decided, you know what? I've been studying real estate off and on for a long time, and I've been dabbling in real estate. And I said, but let's told my wife, let me go over and take a real estate test and see what life is like being a realtor. Well, I went to Anthony's schools, and it was I think I went to school for a month. I went up San Francisco, took my test, and I was in and out of the state of California office in 30 minutes. The test was not that tough, believe me. And when I got home, I told my wife, I said, well, I wonder if I passed. But I wasn't really worried. I knew I was going to pass. And I got my real estate license, or I got a letter saying that I passed my test, and to go find a broker who was going to willing to work with me, and they'd send me my license. Well, I did that. Cats. By the way, it's not cheap to join the San Jose Realtor Board. I think it was like $1,500 to join it. Yeah. And once you join it, you have classes that you go. And that's all they were for, classes. Because we do, I mean, first off, you homes and you get a lockbox key, and so you can take people in, and then they decide. And then you decide, well, okay, they want $225,000 for this house. Okay, well, let's make them an offer of, say, 200 for it, and see if they say yay or nay. And so when they come back with they'd either accept the offer or reject it. But they've sent back We want 225,000. So we'd make another offer, maybe 210,000. Cat hair. And so until you devise a property sale. So say at 210,000, the seller and the buyer agree. Okay. So then you take their paperwork and you go and get them a loan, a mortgage company. And so you submit their information about the house so that it is really a house. Yes, you're connecting it. Okay, I'm back. I have no idea what's happening here. But anyway, you get your mortgage papers, get all that going, and then you have another crew of people go in there and inspect the house, make sure the house is up to code, things like that. It usually costs around $250. But sometimes the buyer pays for this, so constant paperwork. And all this paperwork has to be in a book when that house is finalized or that sale is finalized, stapled together, numerically correct, which means the dates all have to coincide with what happened. And say you've got the typical real estate sale will take, before everything closes, maybe 60 to 90 days. And that over that 60 to 90-day period, you'll have various papers come in that you add to the book that you're making. And then when it's all done and everything is set, the title company's all signed off, and the mortgage is set, you go and hand the buyers the new keys, and you collect your check. Well, the check is made out to actually not you, but to the broker that holds your real estate license, and he's going to give you a percentage of that amount. Typically, if you're a beginning realtor, it's going to be about, let's say take a typical home buyer or seller. Your percentage will be you take 6% of the sales price and you immediately cut it in half because you have a buyer and you have a seller. So once it goes to the buyer or the seller, then you have a broker, and the broker is going to cut it in half or maybe less. And in my case, because I was a beginning realtor, he took it from I think I got not quite 1% of the sales. You didn't make a lot of money at it, but it was I was just beginning a new career. Hello, kitty, kitty, kitty. I have kitties all over me. But like I said, I was just beginning a new career in real estate, and I did houses for maybe homes for maybe 4 years, and I realized, this is not really where I want to be, and so I wanted to go on to the commercial side of it, mostly in the hotel business, and in Santa Cruz, I knew a lot of Indian people, mostly the Patel family. And I approached them and I said, I'd like to represent your families in the real estate deals and find you motels and hotels to buy. So now I was doing an average of maybe 2 hotels a year that I was selling. In most of the situations, I was both the selling broker and the buying broker. But you take a hotel that's sells for say $2.5 million. My fee on that was 10%. So 10% of $2.5 million, 250,000 for a year for your income. I'm happy. So I did that for on and off now for the next, oh God, probably 15 years. And which meant I sold an average of maybe 2 or 3 hotels a year. I'm making good income. And then one day, I'm walking across the parking lot in San Jose, a Costco parking lot, and somebody ran over me. Um, I, I broke 4 ribs, cut my diaphragm in half, and a number of other things. But I didn't know I was hurt. I finally picked myself up and walking back, and I'd actually left my wife in the car because it was kind of drizzly that day, and I got her out of the car and I said, "Well, would you go with me? And so I fell, and I'm not really good on my feet. And I found the battery that I needed. Excuse me. And I went to raise my arm. I couldn't raise my arm. And I'm wondering, what the hell's going on? And so the Costco people, oh, really? He said, do you think you should report that to the head or the office here? I said, do you work for Costco? And he said, well, yes. I said, I think I just did. I said, I told you, and you are a member of Costco. So it's like you expect him to tell his bosses. Anyway, 4 days later, I was in the hospital. My right lung had closed completely. My left lung was about to close, meaning I was about to expire. I passed out of the room, and first, I forget what all. They put me in for surgery about 6 hours after they drained their left lung. And so I went in. I had my surgery, and they came up to me and they said, "Yeah, how did you get around with 4 broken ribs, a torn diaphragm like that?" He said, "It wasn't right. There was something wrong." What was wrong was I developed a staph infection in the hospital, and that staph infection damn near put me under. So I was going back and forth to Valley Medical Center 2, sometimes 3 times a week to get my side where the staph infection was developing drained. Nothing was given to end the staph infection. And so it keeps saying my connection is unstable. Okay, so I was basically what I was doing is dying, and I passed out a number of times. I passed out in our home a couple of times. I passed out putting gas in the car once. I remember that. And finally, the last time I passed out, I woke up at O'Connor Hospital. No, I didn't wake up. I was transferred to O'Connor Hospital. I woke up at Valley Medical Center 45 days after I went to the hospital. They transferred me to the hospital. I got out of the hospital. Um, I want to say the end of March 2002, something like I don't exactly remember the dates, but what it was, I spent 61 days in the hospital. 45 of those days I was in a coma. Still, nobody told me what was going on, what happened. And then I did lose all my hair. They should have shaved off all my hair because they had to drill holes in my head to reduce the swelling. I had developed a staph infection that went up into my brain. And when it got into my brain, it started poisoning my brain. So, like I said, I spent 61 days in the hospital, finally got out. They sent me home. Things weren't right yet. The reason why things were not right yet was because I started developing other problems. My not appendix, the whatever it was, one of those little organs was going bad, and it failed. Just swelled, and um, my gallbladder. Hey, you woke up? Okay, go potty. My wife just walked by. My gallbladder had 39 gallstones in it, and caused by the medications that I'd been given. And so that damn near killed me also. I mean, it really did. I finally got out. What we had to do was we had to leave our home in San Jose because I was not getting well, and I didn't know why, and nobody would tell me. I'd go to the hospital. What's going on? We don't know. Well, what was going on was my gallbladder had failed. My gallbladder failed because of all the antibiotics had pumped into my body over the past 2 years. Yeah. So I came over to here to Modesto, had my gallbladder removed, spent another 30 days in the hospital, and finally got out. And then I started getting better. Been better since. And this all transpired from 2000 to 2005. And so I had 5 years of my life taken away. And but I'm fine now. I really am. Knock on wood. But just yeah, you when you get hurt, you have to be so careful because you know. Um, February the 27th or 28th, 5 years later, I was finally fully on the road to recovery. Yeah. So be careful. Take care of yourself because you know what? No one else will. So I want to thank you for listening, and we'll let it go at that. And then I got to find out what's going on with this. See, I haven't used this in a long time, so we'll figure it out. Bye bye now.